The degree of civilization in a society is revealed by entering its prisons. That was said by the writer Fyodor Dostoevsky, and he knew something about prisons as he spent 4 years in a Siberian prison camp. He described his quarters like this: in summer, intolerable closeness; in winter, unendurable cold. All the floors were rotten, filth on the floors an inch thick. We were packed like herrings in a barrel. From dusk till dawn, it was impossible not to behave like pigs. While a 23-hour lockdown in a modern prison in the USA might be bad, contending with daily violence, bullying, and boredom, there are some places in the world where, say, you might wake up with a dead fellow next to you, you might be tortured, or you might live in abject filth. And those are the places we'll visit today. First of all, to know the world's worst prisons, we have to be able to research them. The prisons we'll include are those that have been home to people, often foreign prisoners or media for a short while, who have documented their experience. There might be worse places we just haven't heard about, as some prisoners in far-flung places around the world haven't written books, talked to media, or the prisons haven't allowed humanitarian organizations within their walls. Now let's start. Number 6. The Bangkok Hilton. There is probably no prison that has been written about more by former foreign inmates than the Bangkok Hilton, known formally as the Bang Kwang Prison. Thailand has been home to many foreign criminals, and with a busy airport and being part of the Golden Triangle, where much of the world's heroin used to come from, it's also been home to many a desperate drug mule. It still is. The Thai's nickname is the Big Tiger, because when you go in, you get stalked and then swallowed and often don't come out. As Warren Fellows described in his book, The Damage Done, you might go to sleep in a packed cell and wake up to find someone has died next to you. Disease is rife, and if you get out of hand, as has been described by many former inmates, you might get beaten to death or close to it. The book The Damage Done is quite old now, but you can read recent books where men describe their first day still in shackles that often cause infection and join a cell of 60 men. There isn't even enough space to turn at night. You are literally sardines in a can being bitten by mosquitoes in oppressive heat. Then, still shackled, you might have to cross a lot of men that don't want to be touched to get to the one toilet in the cell. This will no doubt happen as the water is often not clean and prisoners get stomach bugs and dysentery. As one person put it, people have to survive human rights abuses beyond imagination. And it's bad for the women too. One former prisoner told The Guardian in 2000, "But the worst was the beatings. Old women and the mentally ill were all shoved together and often beaten. I saw a pregnant woman being battered by sticks. It was terrible to watch. One woman was really sick and died in our cell. The guards told her family that she had slit her wrists, but it was because they didn't get her a doctor." The guards are people seemingly without any morals that spend their lives exploiting prisoners, beating them, killing them. The abuses are so many, we can't list them all. But we can tell you that those who have survived the Big Tiger usually have one epithet for the place: hell. So next time someone approaches you in a bar in Thailand and talks about how you can make some easy money, walk away, or you might end up living on a diet of fish head soup and dirty river water with another 8,000 desperate criminals. The worst off prisoners are the ones with no money, which are often the prisoners from parts of Africa that have been found dealing drugs in Thailand. They often have no contact with anyone and no backup from embassies or organizations, making them vulnerable to torturous prison staff. You might get 10 years for murder in Thailand, but 50 years for selling illegal substances. The justice system is often crooked too, and many people here have complained about being set up, then extorted. If they say no to a cash payment, it's behind bars they go. And as for getting an honest lawyer, good luck with that. Number 5. Sabaneta Prison, Maracaibo, Venezuela. Given that Venezuela has an astronomical number of murders, mostly related to gang violence, you might not be surprised to hear that the prisons there can be dangerous places. In 2013, the media reported that 16 prisoners were killed in one riot. Some of the inmates were beheaded and others dismembered, wrote the BBC. This is a different kind of animal from the first prison we talked about, in that while you might still suffer from disease and malnutrition, the frightening aspect is that much of the prison is controlled by the gangs. In 2013 alone, 69 prisoners were killed by other prisoners, which is more than the number of homicides in some European countries for an entire year. In 1994, 108 prisoners died in a riot. There's hardly any space, and around 3,700 men are packed in a place that should only take a maximum of 700 people. The Venezuelan Prison Observatory tells us that 80% of the prisons in the country are run by inmates. So while in some terrible Southeast Asian prisons you might find yourself bowing and crawling in chains all day, in this kind of prison it's the gang violence that's the major concern of any prisoner. The Economist writes that during one search, guards found assault rifles, hand grenades, a submachine gun, and 5,000 rounds of ammunition. This is how one writer explains the place. Poor, low-status inmates are forced to pay the more powerful inmates just to secure a place to sleep. And if they want water, many prisoners must drink straight from corroded bathroom pipes. And former President Hugo Chavez famously called it the gateway to the fifth circle of hell. Number 4. Black Dolphin Prison, Russia. And this is another kind of hell different from the two places we've talked about. The living conditions may not be as bad and there are no heavy-handed gangs, but Russia's most infamous lockup is home to the country's worst criminals. It houses only life sentence inmates, many with convictions of murder, terrorism, sick acts with children, and even cannibalism. They get 90 minutes of exercise in a day, but while under constant supervision, they're not allowed to sit down on their bunk for the 16 hours they're awake. If they get moved around, they're blindfolded and put in a stress position. Food equals soup and bread 4 times a day. As many prisoners are in for homicide, Business Insider tells us that there's an average of 5 murders per inmate. We've seen plenty of photographs inside this prison, and compared to the other places, it's extremely clean and well organized. But when you consider you are in with only Russia's most depraved criminals, and the fact that guards treat you like a madman, you most likely are if you're there, it's one place you certainly don't want to end up. Number 3. Saydnaya Prison, Damascus. Again, this is a different type of hell. The Guardian reported in 2017, thousands of civilians considered opponents of the regime are systematically starved, deliberately dehumanized, mercilessly tortured, and finally hanged in the utmost secrecy in the dead of night, 20 to 50 at a time. We're told starvation is common and so are sadistic beatings. This information came from former guards at the prison, while Amnesty took statements from 31 former Saydnaya detainees. We're told the prisoners have to sit in certain positions when guards are around. They're not allowed to talk or even whisper, and they can't even make a sound while they're being beaten, according to testimonies. This is part of one of those testimonies. If you keep silent, you'll get less beating at Saydnaya. But these people were screaming like they had lost their minds. It wasn't a normal sound. It was not ordinary. It sounded like they were skinning them alive. Before being hanged, we're told there's a mockery of a trial that lasts a few minutes with no evidence, no lawyers, and a predetermined guilty verdict. Then you are handed a death sentence and sent back to your cell for some more torture. Number 2. Diyarbakir Prison, Turkey. If you're an American who has seen the movie Midnight Express, you might harbor a special fear of Turkish prisons. Saying that, things have changed in the world since that film came out. A movie depicting the story of a young man brutalized while doing time for trying to take weed home to the land of the free. If you discount the US's massive prison population, that is. Well, it seems this prison sounds a lot like the one depicted in the movie. This is how one former inmate described a day in the life there. One day, I was told to stand on one foot. After some time, I collapsed. This was to be punished. They made me open the lid of the sewage near the wall and take a handful of excrement and put it in my mouth. I was ordered to stand at attention with the excrement in my mouth without moving and without spitting it out. Admittedly, that still happened some time ago. In 1996, 10 inmates were killed by guards during what guards said was a riot, but it later transpired that some of the guards acted with undue extreme violence. We're told the barbarity isn't anything like it was before, but still, as prisons go, this place has to be on a worst list. For a time, it had the title of being the prison with the most human rights violations per prisoner in the world. Number 1. Camp 22, North Korea. It's not easy getting information about anything that happens in North Korea, but we know that if you break the rules there, you might at one point have joined around 50,000 prisoners at Camp 22. A former guard there has talked to the media about what he saw, saying he regularly witnessed people next to starvation, people missing limbs, missing other parts of their body, and just in terrible condition. He said for sustenance, people would often eat snakes, insects, or frogs they could catch, while if you broke the rules, hell was on its way. 2 former guards talked about regular torture and executions, with one of them saying he witnessed an entire family, including children, getting gassed. Torture, according to those guards, also took the form of water torture. But if you think that's bad, then there's something called hanging torture, where the victim is hung upside down and beaten. Then there's box torture, where a prisoner is put in a box for days and closed in a space where it's impossible to stand or lie down. Kneeling torture means kneeling in a position with something hard attached to the knees that causes a loss of blood flow. We're told this often disables a person for life or later kills them. We're also told there was a part of the prison where inmates were experimented on. Some reports now say the place is closed, and some prisoners were moved on. To where? We don't know, but reports say within a short time, 27,000 people died at Camp 22, so we expect it was easy enough to relocate inmates underground. Which of these places would you least like to go? What prison do you think should be on this list? Tell us in the comments. Also, be sure to check out our other video, Prison Escapes That Went Horribly Wrong. Thanks for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you next time.